Hey guys, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman, and it's time for your dose of some fragrance content. Lately, guys, I've added some quite interesting, unique and niche smelling affordable fragrances to my collection, and today I'm going to take the chance to show them all to you in a list video. But along with them, I'm also going to show you some older fragrances that I've had in my collection for a while, but I definitely think they smell niche and they have their place in today's video. And I'm going to start with a few of the older fragrances. The first one is made by Afnan. It's part of the Supremacy line and it's called Supremacy in Oud. It looks like this, and bottle design is pretty similar to the other fragrances in this line. Now this fragrance is heavily inspired by Initial's Oud for Greatness, but this is not an identical, not a direct clone of Oud for Greatness, although this shares a lot of the same DNA. I've always found Supremacy in Oud to be a more wearable, a more mass-pleasing version of Oud for Greatness, while at the same time keeping the unique scent DNA and the unique smell that it has. Basically, with this one, you'll get a lot of spices, mainly the saffron, some nutmeg. You also get a bit of lavender, which helps with the diffusion of those notes, and you also will get the note of agar oud. And here is where the similarities between this one and the original one end, because this also adds quite a bit more sweetness compared to the original fragrance. The original contains some ambers, this also contains some ambers, but in here there's a bit of a fruity sweetness as well. I think there's some the note of dry fruit has been used in this one, and this overall is a little bit sweeter, a little bit less spicy, a little bit less woody version of Oud for Greatness, but still carries that, unmistakably carries that same DNA. And I've always found this to be a lot easier to wear than, Oud for Greatness itself. I've never been a huge fan of Oud for Greatness, and probably out of all clones of Oud for Greatness that I've tried, Supremacy in Oud is my favorite one. Quality is superb, it's an extrait de parfum concentration and has really strong performance. The next one comes from the brand of the Oud's collection, and it's called Royal Knights. It looks like this, and although this is cloning a designer fragrance, I've always found that the original designer fragrance to actually smell a lot more niche than some niche fragrances out there. Of course, the inspiration for this one has been Louis Vuitton's Ombre Nomade. So we're talking about another very oriental scent, just like Supremacy in Oud. This time around though, along with the notes of agar oud and some of the spices that you'll find in this one, for example, in here you'll find the note of rose, you'll find a bit of a fruity sweetness, you'll find more ambery sweetness as well, and the note of leather, a pretty strong note of leather. And this is one of the very best clones of Louis Vuitton's Ombre Nomade that you can currently get. I think there are 2 or 3 top tier clones of Ombre Nomade from the Middle East, and this is one of those. It offers really nice quality, smells very similar to the original fragrance. I've always found this one to have a little bit less of that fruity sweetness that the original one has in the beginning. This may be feeling a little bit more masculine because it concentrates more on that leather, rose and agar oud combo, but other than that, this will get you smelling very close to the original one. Offers really nice quality and the performance again is top notch. Continuing on with some of the older players, some of the fragrances that have been around for a while, the next one that I'm about to show is quite an unique scent and definitely smells niche. It's pretty famous in the fragrance community. It comes from the brand of Rasasi and it's called Shuhrah. This is the original Shuhrah, and this is quite the fragrance. The scent itself is very floral. It has a lot of leather, there's a bit of agar oud, there's some musks going on, there's the note of rose, but this also feels quite green, has a bit of an ashy tobacco note in it, and has a very interesting tomato leaf note, which adds a bit of greenness and adds quite a bit of uniqueness to the scent of this one. Now granted, this is a little bit more on the challenging side. This can be one of those pretty divisive fragrances that either you like from first sniff or you cannot stand. I personally have really enjoyed this one, and I got it pretty early when I started exploring Middle Eastern fragrances, but for me it was an instant like. It's not a love, but definitely an instant like, because I can definitely appreciate the uniqueness that this fragrance carries. And to this day, I don't think that there's anything on the markets that smells very close to this one. Quite a unique scent. I've always found this one to have the scent of like a luxury Arabian soap, bar of soap or something like that. Again, quite a unique fragrance. Also, at least older batches, older bottles have really beastly performance. I don't know what's the case with the newer formulations or bottles, but the older ones used to have really strong performance, like this bottle here that I have. I've had it for a few years now. The next one comes from the brand of Orientica, and it's called Bleu, and this one is a clone of Parfum de Marly's Layton. This is a straight up clone of Layton, and probably this is one of my two most favorite clones of Layton. This smells very similar to Layton, so you'll get all the notes that you'll find in Layton: the fruity sweetness, the ambers, the vanilla sweetness, the spiciness, the woodiness, a hint of the greenness as well that you'll find in Layton. This though feels a little bit softer and slightly sweeter, especially in the opening. Feels a little bit less spicy and less green than Layton itself, but the quality is absolutely superb. Orientica offer superb quality. They have another great clone of Layton as well, which is called Exclusif with Bleu. And both of them, this one and that other one, are absolutely superb when it comes to quality and also when it comes to performance, especially Exclusif with Bleu. But for today's video, I went with Royal Blue. This one, in my experience, offers pretty much the same performance that you'll find with Layton, meaning that it's a very strong fragrance with super high quality. The next one that I've included in today's video comes from the brand of Maison Alhambra, and it's called Exclusif Saffron, and along with the other fragrances in this small line, all of them are cloning original Carolina Herrera fragrances, part of their private blend. This one is a clone of Saffron Lazuli, and the name Saffron should tell you that this has a strong saffron note. It's not only about the saffron, although this is the main note in this fragrance. The opening is a little bit fruity, quite spicy, thanks to that saffron note, and I've always found fragrances with that are heavy on the saffron note to come across even feeling a little bit boozy. But basically, the opening is fruity and spicy, and then you know, in the mids and dry downs, you get a bit of a floral touch. I think there's an iris note, there's a leather note with this one, definitely. There's some ambers on the dry down which add a bit of sweetness. This smells quite unique in my opinion, and if you like the note of saffron, if you like saffron heavy fragrances, you'll probably end up enjoying Exclusif Saffron. Back in the day, this used to be pretty inexpensive. At the same time, it offers quite nice quality, I would say, and the performance is also top notch. The next one that I've included in today's video comes from the brand of French Avenue, and it's part of the aromatics collaboration with French Avenue. This one is called Xando. Now, this is one of the more wearable fragrances featured in today's video. Probably this is the sweetest fragrance also featured in today's video, because basically this is all about the note of vanilla. I think there are a total of 5 different type of vanilla notes used in this one. There's also I think was like a dark chocolate note used in this one, and there's also the note of rum, or like a boozy note. So basically you're getting a boozy vanilla based fragrance that has a bit of a dark chocolatey feel to it as well. Very nice quality. I've been enjoying this one quite a lot, and it's one of my favorite vanilla based fragrances at the moment. Quality is absolutely superb, and also the performance tends to be really nice. I've been enjoying this one, and my wife also is enjoying this one, and as you can see, we've put quite a big dent into this bottle. Again, super nice quality and very long lasting performance. Now, moving on to some of the more recent purchases that I've made that have a place in today's video. The first one comes again from Fragrance World, but it's sold under Athoor Al brand, and it's called Jamr. Now, I think this is a pretty new release, and this is supposedly a clone of Ahmed Al-Maghribi's Marsh. Now, grant you, I've never tried the original fragrance from Ahmed Al-Maghribi. I've always wanted to try that one, but it rarely pops up on our markets and usually tends to be very expensive, and at least for the moment, you know, I can't force myself of paying like 100 euros for an Ahmed Al Maghribi scent. So I cannot compare it to the original fragrance, but I can tell you that this smells quite unique. I've had this for a few days, I'm still testing this one out, but immediately after I sprayed this fragrance, I knew that it had a place in such type of video, you know, an affordable niche smelling fragrance. This opens up very animalic, has a strong agar oud note, has a strong leather note, and both those notes feel very, very animalic. There's some spiciness as well, you know, quite a bit of saffron. It feels a little bit peppery as well. I think there's a nutmeg note in this fragrance as well. Somewhere in the background, some sweetness is lurking, and the opening can be pretty challenging. Now, after like half an hour, when this starts to really settle on your skin, it becomes a lot more wearable. It has a certain freshness to it as well, which is kind of contrasting compared to, you know, those other serious notes. The dry down so far from my testing seems to be mainly about the leather note, with still some of the agar oud, which feels a lot softer on the dry down, and a little bit more ambery sweetness as well, making it a little bit more wearable, but the opening seems to be quite challenging. Definitely this one smells quite unique, and also, at least from my early testing, seems to have quite strong performance, especially initially the projection is pretty strong. The next one comes from the brand of Lattafa. I've mentioned this one a few times already in the past few weeks, but I think this one also deserves a place in today's video. It's part of the Niche Emirati line, and it's called Classic Stone. And this one is heavily inspired by Parfum de Marly's Altair, but at the same time this has quite a unique scent to itself. This, as I said in my review, and I think in the previous list video where I included this one, I imagine like this one being the niche, actual niche version of Altair, which to my nose smells pretty designer level. Or you can think of this one like being Altair Exclusif, Altair Absolu, Altair Elixir, something like that. This is a lot darker. It gets rid of quite a bit of those white florals that you'll find in Altair. This opens up darker, a little bit more spicy, less sweet. There's a leather note in this one on the dry down. On the dry down this remains quite darker and less sweet than Altair, although on the dry down it gets closer to Altair. But I've always thought of this one like being the more masculine, the more niche version of Altair itself. Quality is really nice. This is part of the most expensive line from the brand of Lattafa, and also offers really good performance. And moving on to the last two fragrances that I've included in today's video. The first of them comes from the brand of Arabiyat Prestige, and this one is called Kohl Opulence. It looks like this. There's another fragrance in this line which is cloning something else. The other one is a clone of God of Fire. This one is a clone of Bleu Talisman from Nihilio, ex Nihilio. But this is, I've always found this one to be again a more interesting, a more niche version of Bleu Talisman. I've always found Bleu Talisman to be a little bit too shower jelly, a little bit too fruity, maybe even a little bit feminine leaning for my nose. But Kohl Opulence is different. This is darker, this is less shower jelly, it has less of that fruity sweetness, has a bit more maybe amber and vanilla going on in its scent profile, and I also detect the note of leather, which to my nose adds an additional layer on top of the otherwise not so that interesting scent profile of Bleu Talisman, and also makes it, I would say, more niche and more masculine. And I've been really impressed by Kohl Opulence. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of Bleu Talisman, but this is like on another level scent-wise, and I've been really enjoying this one. Quality is the usual superb quality that you'll expect from the brand of Arabiyat Prestige, and also this has pretty strong performance with good projection. And the last fragrance that I've included in today's video comes from the brand of French Avenue again, and this one is called Amber Saffron. It looks like this. It's been around for a while, but I just recently, in the past month or so, got my hands on a bottle of this one, and this is a fragrance that I think is a unique creation. This doesn't smell like anything that I've tried. Again, just like the name would say, this is heavily relies on the note of saffron. It relies on some ambers for its sweetness, especially on the dry down. But this has a hint of leather as well, has some airiness to it, and the quality of the saffron note, you can definitely tell this very, very high. Now, this is a little bit more on the expensive side, but sometimes if you can find it on a sale, for example, I got it off Notino's website for something like 35, 38 euros, like 40 something dollars. At that price point, if you like the note of saffron, if you like unique smelling fragrances, this is an absolute bargain. There's some agar oud in it as well. The first few minutes can be a bit challenging, but overall this is a very, very nice, very unique smelling fragrance. And again, if you can pick it up for the right price, this is a superb deal. Performance is great, total longevity is good. It doesn't project super loudly, but I can, that maybe can be a good thing, because again, this is a little bit more on the challenging side. But overall, I've been really impressed by Amber Saffron. And so guys, in today's video, I showed you 10 affordable fragrances that actually smell niche. I hope that you found today's video interesting. If you did, give it a like. And I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one for your dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.